I love the wash and wear, traveling light, always prepared.
For whom?
For you. I like the way you roll here.
Do you really?
This is great. Yeah,
This was the only thing that was clean.
I like it. No, I meant the setup.
I thought you meant the clothes.
I would never criticize your attire, sir.
You can always criticize my attire.
I love that about you.
No, this is how the sausage gets made, baby.
Absolutely.
Through this one little microphone. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Pre-Accident Podcast. I am your host, Todd Conklin. How are you today? Are you swell? I wonder if you're swell. Don't really know what that means. But swell seems better than bad. So let's go with swell. So the podcast is just humming along. Man, I can't believe just how much excitement there is. There's a lot of really fun stuff coming up. I don't know if you're following closely. Should I tease who's coming? No, I shouldn't. No, I can kind of. We're going to talk a little bit, coming up on the podcast, we're going to talk a lot about high reliability. So that's a tease for what's coming up, what's coming down the pike. Other than that, everything is grand here, that's for sure. I'm trying to think if I have any great stories to tell you. I think I've shared pretty much all the excitement that I could tell you. I could tell you now. I'm really trying to make this year the year of only excitement and fun. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my goal for this year, at least in some way. Some semblance. What's the word? It kind of looks that way. Let's go with that way. I have no brain left either, but that's excitement. So I've had, I'm just coming off of a giant series of journeys. And so getting my feet back on the ground and getting ready to take over for the summer, which I'm really looking forward to. I got a cruise set up with the familia. And then what else is coming up this summer? 2 weeks in New Zealand, which will be a kind of a little speaking book tour thing in New Zealand, which will be fun. And, just a ton of stuff. Hopefully I can spend time with you. That would even be even better. Let's plan on that. Why don't you plan on coming to Santa Fe for the weekend? And we'll just hang out and have a large time. A large time will be had by all. So let's jump into the podcast. Today we're going to talk to our buddy Brian Herman. If you don't know Brian, he's someone you ought to put on your list of people you want to meet in 2020. Put that in next year's list. Don't meet him this year, 2020. Brian is at Tucson Electric Power, which is a part of the Fortis gang. And Brian was driving us around Tucson up to look at stuff. And I asked him if we could do a really quick podcast because I'm curious. Brian is kind of a forward-thinking cat, and I'm really curious what Brian's thinking about kind of as what's next, because he's been working with his organization to move them really towards this new approach, and they have all sorts of interesting hazards. You know, they have all the utility hazards, mining hazards, generation hazards. They got it all. And he's really crafted with his staff, and his staff's amazing. He's crafted this really great opportunity to move the organization forward. So I wanted to really chew on his ear a little bit and see what he was thinking, kind of what next looks like. And so that is the podcast for today. So maybe I'll just shut up and let you listen. That's probably the smart thing to do. Sit back and relax. This is Brian Herman from Tucson Power, and he's going to talk to you about human performance, safety differently, and what he sees is kind of next. What's the future for safety for utilities? What are you thinking? Where's your head?
I think that the path we're on with really relying on the workers. The utility industry is an interesting thing, and that very much top down, safety and a lot of the leadership and ends up being people who've been in it for a long time and seeing the way that things are changing in the world and the industry. We have to rely on the worker to be the problem solver and to help come up with innovative ways to address safety problems. We can't rely on the way things have always been. We just can't.
So what's that look like in practice? Tell us about your program.
In our program, it's really being a couple years into the hop fundamentals. It's that piece of almost a partnership with the workers, where rather than from a safety standpoint, not us just enforcing codes and regulations, but it's more a partnership of how do we do things differently, and that's really what it's about for us, is letting the conversations that we have and kind of the organic learning, letting that drive safety rather than just sticking to the rules and regulations, because as stringent as they are, they're not gonna keep us safe.
Yeah, rules aren't controls, right? How did you get started in the whole human performance thing? What got you in there?
I'll tell you what, it was ironically my a couple bosses ago, a gentleman that's still with the company. His name is Terry Ney, and he's now an operational leader, but he was our senior director of corporate safety, and he brought the concepts to us and said, "Hey, you need to check this out." Came back from a conference that he had been at, and we were doing safety the traditional way prior to that. And he came back and said, "You need to check these guys out, Bob Edwards and Todd Conklin." And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And that's when we came and actually went to the fundamentals course in Las Vegas. And just on a whim, one of my coworkers, Carrie Hildreth, and I went up and sat through it, and subsequently minds were blown.
You sat on the back table, I remember.
Yeah, and it was great.
The back table is where the bad students sit.
Exactly. That's why we show up early, so you can get that back of the bus. Yeah, sit in the back of the bus, and that way, if I didn't like it, I could either, if I didn't, and I wasn't a skeptic, but I thought, Terry was a big idea guy, and to me, this was a big idea, and he was famous for coming in, and I called him the supernova, because he would come in and have a big idea, and it would get all over me, and I'd be like, "Oh, now I got to do something with this," and that's what it felt like. It felt like another big idea, and I was like, "Okay," but I will always indulge him, because he was an awesome leader and an awesome boss, and I said, "All right, anything that energizes this man to that level, I need to go and check it out and see what PIPE is all about," and like I said, we went up there, Carrie and I both went up there, and I'll never forget the conversations that she and I had about what a twist of the script it was, and how impactful it could be for our organization, and we've been on it ever since.
What do you see happening in a year?
Like in a year from now, or
yeah.
what?
A year from now.
I think we are an interesting study in that our footprint is strange in the state of Arizona. So we're pocketed. We have different components throughout the state, some power generation facilities, electric transmission, distribution, and each one of those has their own little microculture. So one of the big challenges for us is to not just assume that everything is going to move on the same trajectory or the strategies are the same. So our challenge then becomes implementing, hitting them where they're at and kind of moving, having the safety conversations to move the safety culture one conversation at a time and having the right one. So that's where we're at. Some areas are just taken to it and they're taking off, and they're, you have learning team champions and they're going for it. And other areas are a little more slow to it. So that's where we're really trying to kindle the fire. And that's one of the reasons why we like the partnership with you and Andrea and Bob, is that there's something for everyone.
Do you think that makes it harder to manage, since it's not an enterprise-wide equal effort? It's different places are moving in different directions, or is it easier?
Little bit of both. I think you can. It requires it to be more strategic. So it's harder. It's hard to say if it's harder or easier. It certainly requires more strategy, and we have to do more thinking about it. And I hate to say it, but we got to be more intentional about how we move it through. And one of the things that when you do it, our corporate safety department is only 5 of us. We have operational safety folks inside, so we're really working with them to move it through and identifying the challenges and everybody. We're all learning. We're all not only are we learning about the work we're doing, we're learning about what does safe work look like. How do we build capacity? What does that even mean? And how do we make that meaningful to the people that are doing the work? And then how do they take it and integrate it into what they do day to day? And the hard part then is we're not there with our finger on the pulse to see what type of interventions need to happen, or conversations that need to happen. So we kind of rely on the anecdotal stories and evidence coming in.
How'd you build that level of trust? I mean, and that's something you're good at, but how do you do it?
That's a great question. I guess I have a saying that if you're in safety and you don't care about people, you're in the wrong business. And if you care about people, you should have a desire. Its philosophy is the love of learning and the love, the love of wisdom. And I think that you should also want to understand how the mind works and relationships. I didn't come to this with a technical background. I came from it from a more of an academic and a safety background. So I knew I would never have the technical aptitude to stand in a line in a group of the subject matter experts and talk to a thing. So I knew that I had to bring the people component, and I had to have those skills. And I think that's what it is to show up and be authentic, be who you are, and just try to elevate the human experience of everybody that you haven't come in contact with. And it seems to be working.
As a safety leader, what hints would you have for people that are starting on this journey now?
Wow. Open your mind. Be open to learning. Identify your own biases, and just don't expect yourself to have all the answers. And be open to the answers coming from some funny spots. I think that's been one of the best things about this journey is the idea of the black line and the blue line. And when you really open up the conversation to the blue line, it's going to be pretty interesting, the things that you hear. And I think that would be it, is keep an open mind and go for it, but dive in.
Do you have any success stories? What's amazed you?
What's amazed me, I think, is one of the things that's amazed me is the way that these ideas and these methods and just this practice has improved relationships. And in particular, in some pockets where some real strained relationships between leadership and work groups, and leadership buys in and has the patience to work through the skepticism that's going to be naturally inherent on something that's new, or something that looks different, or something that could be accused of being flavor of the day. And if leadership is committed to it and really partners with the work groups and lets the ideas and the solutions come from that, it's amazing the ills that will heal. And that's been one of the coolest things in some of our areas, that I've seen some long-standing relationships that were really strained all of a sudden are improved. And then naturally, everything that comes along with that, right? Work gets better, it gets faster, it gets more efficient, it's certainly safer. It's just, morale goes up, everybody's sense of well-being, and it's back to that elevating the human experience. People feel more engaged and everything that comes with it. So that's been a cool byproduct of this whole thing, and one of the reasons why I love it.
Has it been worth it? Are you guys safer?
Absolutely. And I wish that, looking back, I wish we'd have started sooner. It's like anything. I see the benefit that I had, and I look at the ways everything's an evolution. And I love the turn that we took with these ideas, and being able to rally around these methods and these ideas. Just as a safety group, it's brought our safety professionals together in a way that I didn't see coming. So that's been really cool.
Thanks, man. Big thanks to Brian. That's great. It's a shorty podcast, but I like it, actually. Nothing wrong with it. Just, we're in our summer mode. We can have short ones. That's not a problem. There are no rules. We make this up as we go. There are a ton of new podcasts out there. I'm just saying, you and I have cut the swath. We sort of set the standard by which all the rest of these new safety podcasts are just kind of happening all over the world, which makes me proud because, because it's not everything's a competition. That's just what I look at it. And talking to Brian, it's just really nice to talk to somebody who thinks about these things the way we think about them and has thought about them for a while. To me, the point he makes at the end is really valuable, how it's rejuvenated and revitalized safety professionals in the work. It's building stronger teams. It's giving us better things to do. It's actually it's a positive thing to look forward to. And sometimes I think our world doesn't have so much of that. So that's a real plus for us, no matter how you cut it. Special thanks to Brian. Thank you for all you do, my friend, and for your entire staff. They are amazing people. And thanks for hanging out with us and showing us all the good tacos, which is the reason you go to Tucson. Tucson is about the taco. If you ask me, no one did, but if you did, that's what I'd tell you. Until then, keep listening. Thanks for being a part of it. Tell your friends, subscribe. Keep an ear tuned because there's great things coming up, and we'll have lots and lots of fun, I promise. Learn something new every single day. Have as much fun as you possibly can. And for goodness sakes, be safe.